Welcome back. All right, in my continuing look at teams that missed the playoffs, let us discuss the Boston Bruins. Boston had, they had quite the season, didn't they? Fell right off. And the interesting thing is, it's something that's been called for, even at points have been saying, all right, so Boston's fall from grace is going to happen soon, and then they defy gravity and have another amazing season like they did in 2023-2024, where they finished 47-20-15, 109 points, just 20 losses in regulation. One issue Boston was having, though, in seasons since 2019, where they went all the way to the final, they were having trouble getting anywhere in the playoffs. And it was becoming pretty obvious that this team was good, not great, and that something needed to change. And this season, the change that was made was they no longer were a playoff team. 33, 39, and 10 record, 76 points. A lot of the blame goes towards Don Sweeney. It would appear that Don Sweeney's getting every opportunity to try to make things better for next year, and he has a lot of optimism around this team. I don't share that optimism, to be honest, although that could change between now and the start of next season. So, Sweeney says the team underperformed. On some level, yes. Hampus Lindholm being out for as long as he was, losing Charlie McAvoy, that's 2 year top 4 defenseman for quite some time. And they didn't have anybody who was able to keep up with Pastrnak in scoring. They weren't able to have anybody who was even close, really. So when we look at the exits from the end of 2023-2024, it is a long list. Brad Marchand being at the top of it. And Marchand's a free agent this summer. I don't get the feeling he's coming back to Boston next year. I mean, crazy things can happen, sure, but since they weren't able to negotiate any kind of extension with him before trading him to Florida, I don't see him returning to Boston next year. Charlie Coyle, traded out to Colorado, of course. Jake DeBrusk went to free agency, ended up in Vancouver. Trent Frederick traded at the deadline to Edmonton. He's on an expiring contract. James Van Riemsdyk signed as a free agent with Columbus. Danton Heinen signed as a free agent with Vancouver, now, of course, in Pittsburgh. Jesper Boquist ended up with Florida, and he's enjoying himself in Florida. Brandon Carlo traded to Toronto, which seems like sacrilege, I would think, for some in the Boston fandom. Matt Grzelcyk ended up going as a free agent, and I honestly missed Matt Grzelcyk on the blue line. I thought a lot of the depth on the blue line was tested this year. And again, considering you're without McAvoy and you're without Hampus Lindholm, it's going to be tough. And then Linus Ullmark. Ullmark goes to Ottawa, has a pretty good regular season, to the point where he gets Ottawa back into the playoffs while Boston falls out. And that is definitely a storyline. Now, the question then becomes one of, would Boston have been in a better position if they kept Ullmark and got rid of Swayman? If they'd traded Swayman? I don't have an answer to that. I don't think they'd be in a much better position, but it would be at least a little different, and maybe this season wouldn't have been quite as rough. But we'll get into that. So the overall numbers are not great. 28th in goal scoring at 2.71 goals scored per game. 26th in goals against at 3.3 goals against per game. The numbers for Boston just ugly all around. The power play 29th at 15.2%. Once a strength of this team, an intimidating strength of this team, now not so much. And their penalty kill 24th in the league at 76.3%. So the overall numbers, not encouraging. And this is not a team that has a lot of young talent. So with a lot of these videos, I've been talking about all these extra draft picks and all this draft capital and all these prospects. Boston's prospect pool, the last time the Athletic did a ranking of them, 30th. 30th out of 32 teams. And it makes some sense. Boston has traded too many first rounders. They've traded too many draft picks in general, and it has left the cupboard kind of bare. Discussion as well about, Matt Poitras. Did they rush him into the league? Did that hurt his overall development? And now for Don Sweeney, he doesn't want to end up in a situation where he's putting kids into a top role before they're ready. The idea being maybe that's what happened with Poitras, while Lysell is still there. And those are the two biggest names when it comes to the prospect pool. There are others that are decent enough prospects, but in terms of finding that next player, that next big star, Boston needs to win a lottery. They need to win a lottery this year. The one thing that does kind of make me scared is reading Don Sweeney saying that he really feels like next year they can get back into it. That he's told Charlie Jacobs you know what? Of course, Jacob's family being the ownership of the team, we should be playing meaningful games again next year at this time. Maybe. I just don't know if the long-term future of the franchise would be benefited by, trying to eke your way into a playoff spot. But they have the cap space this summer. The cap space this summer, $28.82 million. That's going to be eaten into by having to or sign players to replace exiting UFAs, re-sign RFAs. But in general, they don't have a Swayman type situation looming. And of course, the Swayman situation, that's a whole situation now that's completely different. So they do have 2 second-round picks this year. They have 2 first-round picks next year, 2026, and they have 2 second-round picks in 2027. So there's a little bit of draft capital there, but they are still in a cupboard's bare kind of situation. And that extra first-round pick next year, that could be big. Because, of course, McKenna's the first he's going to be the number 1 pick next year. McKenna, absolutely ridiculous skill level and exactly the kind of player Boston needs. So when I hear Sweeney saying we want to, get back in the hunt next year, I do wonder how aggressive they're going to be. And if looking at the draft class for next year, if they might decide to scale back a little bit. Maybe you want that shot at McKenna, but we'll see. So looking at a few of the contracts that have been signed by Don Sweeney, starting with Elias Lindholm. It's a $7.75 million cap hit until 2031, and he did not play well enough this year. And I think what really, and this is where the Sweeney comments kind of, I didn't bang my head against a wall, but I thought about it. Lindholm this year, 82 games, 17 goals, 30 assists, 47 points, and he said he expects more from Lindholm next year. I don't think you're going to get more points from Lindholm at this stage than maybe 50. I don't see him as more than a 50-point producer. I don't think he had really great chemistry in Boston, and I know that's not a tradable contract at this point in time, even with the cap going up, but I just don't see that contract aging well. He's also expecting Casey Middlestad to play a better offensive role. Buffalo fans know how this works, right? $5.75 million cap hit till 2027 for Middlestad. In his time in Boston, 18 games, 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points, and disastrous at points in his run with Boston, understanding that it's after the deadline. The Bruins team had been decimated by both injury and the trade deadline itself. So I don't want to put too much stock into the 18-game time he was with Boston, but it did not increase my confidence level with Middlestad, right? And Middlestad's a player that I was, pretty ecstatic about a couple years ago in Buffalo, and that ecstatic feeling's kind of sort of gone. Zadorov had a good year, but again, it's a $5 million cap hit until 2030, and I still don't know that this contract has benefited Boston a lot, but I will admit, plus minus is a flawed stat. Yep. And I say that every time because people will always mention it. But him being a plus 25 on a team where a lot of guys weren't a plus at all tells you he was good when he was on the ice. Now, he did take the most penalties of anybody in the NHL. And when you're struggling to kill penalties, as Boston did, the fact that Zadorov's in the box as often as he is problematic. 81 games, 4 goals, 18 assists, 22 points for Zadorov. You don't expect the production with Zadorov anyway, so any points you get from him are kind of a bonus. But, yeah, the plus 25 is impressive. And I thought he had a rough start to the season. I thought Zadorov got better as the year went along. And also, I felt like he was taking fewer penalties. Whether he was or wasn't, I can't say for sure. I didn't get into that part of it. It just felt like there were less times that he was exiting the ice to go to the penalty box. Swayman, $8.25 million cap hit until 2032. He has to be better. He knows he has to be better. I think he will be better. I think that's part of the reason Don Sweeney's saying, we can come back next year. But Swayman's got to be better out of the gate next season than he was this year. Korpisalo, $3 million cap hit until 28. And he was moderately better than Swayman overall. Korpisalo wasn't great. Definitely not as good as Ullmark was in Ottawa, as an example. But odds are, if Boston had to go back and do it all over again, I think the only change they'd make is get Swayman's deal signed sooner. Maybe not talk about it as publicly as they did, too. I don't think that helped the public perception of the Bruins organization at that point. Pastrnak led the way for this team. 82 games, 43 goals, 63 assists, 106 points. Morgan Geekie was second on the team in scoring. 77 games, 33 goals, 24 assists, 57 points. There was 49 points between Pastrnak and the second leading scorer on the team. So he's not going to be nominated for the Hart, but Pastrnak has really shown over the last couple years, I think especially, just how important he is and how dynamic a forward he is, that he can still put up over 100 points on a team that can't score. So Pastrnak kind of sort of, and he doesn't even need great line mates. He can go out there and create the offense himself, which is kind of fun to watch. And that's about all that's fun to watch right now with the Boston Bruins. It's close. One question, of course, with Boston, who's the next coach going to be? Your guess is as good as mine. I think they're probably going to be one of the teams that's called on Mike Sullivan. Pierre LeBrun saying 5 teams have called on Mike Sullivan. I'd be very surprised if Boston's not one of them. Swayman, 892 save percentage, needs to be better. Korpisalo's 893, as I mentioned, needs to be better. And so we'll see if that, in fact, happens for them. There's going to be a lot of money thrown down by Sweeney here on the idea of, hey, these guys are going to come back and they're going to be healthy. And it's going to be good. And McAvoy's going to stay healthy. We'll see what they do with that cap money. The $28.8 million makes me moderately nervous because we saw what they did last summer, spending a combined, $16 million combined between Lindholm and Swayman. So, I mean, it's something. It's a lot of money, and they did not get, I think, the value from Elias Lindholm or Jeremy Swayman this year. But I'd like to be able to wear my Jeremy Swayman jersey a little more next season than what I wore it this year. This year was tough. I'm not even wearing it for this video. But, yeah, we'll see how things go. I think Boston needs to do at least a retool. I think rather than looking at improvement this summer and trying to get back in the hunt for the playoffs next year, I think they'd be better off just to let next year happen, go through what they need to go through, hope for the number 1 draft pick in what's a very deep draft. Well, a decently deep draft next year, and maybe win a lottery this year as well. That would be beneficial to them. But they need youth. They need young players pushing their way into the lineup. They need talented players, and they desperately need somebody who can play with Pastrnak right now. They need that next player. And I don't know if it's going to happen via free agency. I don't know if it's going to happen via trade, or if it's going to be somebody that they get at the draft. But they desperately need more talent up front, or we're going to see a further erosion in those offensive stats. The power play is going to continue to flounder. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.